The peaceful planet of Earth had always been a quiet member of the intergalactic community. It wasn't the strongest, nor the most advanced, but it was respected for its calm nature and dedication to diplomacy. Earth had a reputation for being a place of reason, a world that preferred peace over war. But all of that changed in an instant, when a dark shadow appeared in the sky. The Varlock, a brutal alien race known for their ruthless expansion, had set their sights on Earth. They weren't interested in alliances or peaceful negotiations. To them, Earth was just another world to conquer, another place to take resources from and leave behind a trail of destruction. Their warships arrived without warning, and within hours they began their assault. The first attack was swift, overwhelming, and brutal. The Varlock's weapons were advanced, and they didn't hesitate to use them. Cities fell, and millions of innocent civilians were slaughtered in the blink of an eye. The news spread like wildfire across the galaxy. It was too fast, too powerful for Earth to defend against. The galaxy's leaders, those who had watched Earth's progress from a distance, were shocked. They had never seen such a sudden and violent attack. Earth had been attacked before, but never with this level of force. The destruction was unimaginable. Entire cities lay in ruins, and the people of Earth were left reeling, unsure of what to do next. It wasn't just a war, it was a massacre. The Varlock, after their initial strike, began to mock the humans. They believed that Earth, with its peaceful reputation, would never be able to respond to such an attack. They laughed at the idea that humanity could even put up a fight. In their minds, Earth was a weak planet, full of fragile beings who would crumble under pressure. They had no idea what they had unleashed. Back on Earth, the people were in shock. It had all happened so quickly. The Varlock's warships were still in orbit, and the survivors of the initial attacks were left to pick up the pieces. But what the Varlock didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for something like this. For years, Earth had been secretly building weapons, training soldiers, and developing technology that could defend against an enemy like the Varlock. They had been waiting for the right moment, and now that moment had come. In a hidden military base deep within the mountains, the leaders of Earth's defense forces gathered. General Marcus Stone, a veteran of many wars and a leader of Earth's elite defense squad, stood before them. His face was hard, but his eyes showed a determination that burned bright. He had seen what the Varlock were capable of, and he knew that Earth's only chance at survival was to strike back, hard and fast. He turned to the others in the room. "We can't wait for help from the Galactic Council," General Stone said, his voice steady but filled with a cold fury. "The Varlock don't care about diplomacy. They only understand one thing: force. If we want to survive, we're going to have to show them what Earth is capable of." There was a moment of silence as the other commanders looked at each other, unsure of what they were hearing. Earth had always been the peaceful planet, the one that solved problems through talks and agreements. They had never been a planet of war, but now war was knocking on their doorstep. Stone continued, "We've been preparing for this day for years. The technology, the weapons, it's all ready. We've built ships that can take down entire fleets. We've trained soldiers who can fight in ways the Varlock won't expect. And most importantly, we've built a force that can take back what was stolen from us." His words sparked a fire in the room. One by one, the commanders stood, their faces set with determination. They had always known Earth had the potential for greatness, but now it was time to prove it. They were no longer a weak planet. They were a force to be reckoned with. Within hours, Earth's defense fleet was assembled. The ships, sleek and powerful, prepared to launch. They were designed with one purpose in mind: to defend Earth from the invaders who thought they could crush humanity without consequence. The galaxy had always seen Earth as a peaceful, docile planet, but now humanity would show them the truth. The first strike came as a shock to the Varlock. They had underestimated Earth, thinking the humans were too weak to retaliate. But the Varlock didn't realize that humanity had something far more dangerous than technology. They had something that no other species in the galaxy could understand: the will to survive, the will to fight for what was theirs. General Stone's fleet appeared out of nowhere, emerging from the shadows of Earth's orbit. The Varlock ships, which had once ruled the skies, now found themselves facing an unexpected opponent. The first battle was brutal. Earth's ships fired with precision, taking down Varlock warships one by one. The Varlock tried to fight back, but their attacks were clumsy, their tactics predictable. They had never faced a force like this before. The battle continued for hours, but Earth's fleet proved stronger than anyone had anticipated. Each ship was built for survival, each soldier trained for this moment. The Varlock's arrogance, their belief that they could simply conquer Earth without facing real resistance, was shattered. They began to realize that humanity was not the weak, peaceful species they had once thought. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy was about to learn that lesson the hard way. As the battle raged on, the humans made their way to the heart of the Varlock's fleet. Their mission was clear: take down the Varlock leadership and end the invasion once and for all. General Stone and his team of elite soldiers boarded a ship that would take them directly into the Varlock flagship. The mission was dangerous. It was almost certain that not all of them would make it back alive. But the humans knew that this was their only chance. They didn't hesitate. They fought with everything they had. And in the end, it was the Varlock who were left scrambling to survive. Earth had shown them what it meant to underestimate humanity. The Varlock had thought they could wipe out Earth without consequences, but they had no idea what they were truly dealing with. As the final Varlock ship fell from the sky, Earth's leaders made their declaration: humanity is not a species to be taken lightly. We will not be conquered. We will never be slaves. We are Earth, and we are a force that the galaxy will learn to fear. The message was clear. The peaceful days of Earth were over. The mask of civility had been dropped. From now on, humanity would be known not as the peaceful species of the galaxy, but as the ones who would fight, who would survive, and who would never back down. And so, the galaxy's perception of Earth changed forever. The once weak species was now a powerful force. The Varlock had learned the hard way that humanity was not to be underestimated, and as the dust settled on the battlefield, the galaxy realized that the true beginning of the end had just begun. The Varlock had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price for their arrogance. The Varlock's fleet was shattered, their warships scattered in the void of space, burning in the wake of humanity's first true strike. General Marcus Stone stood at the helm of one of Earth's finest warships, the Horizon. The battle was over, but the fight had just begun. The silence of space was broken only by the hum of the ship's engines as it drifted through the wreckage of the Varlock fleet. Stone and his crew were aboard the Horizon, which had been instrumental in the victory, but they knew the war was far from finished. The Varlock may have lost their first wave, but they had resources, allies, and a deadly determination that made them a force to be feared. Back on Earth, the leaders gathered in their command center, which was now a bunker deep underground. Earth had won the first battle, but it had come at a great cost. Many soldiers had fallen in the initial attack, and the civilian population had endured heavy losses. But Earth had rallied, and now they were preparing for the next phase of the war. The attack on Earth had been unexpected, and the damage was irreversible. Cities lay in ruins, the economy was in shambles, and billions of people had lost their homes. The pain of their losses was raw, but the people of Earth were not broken. Instead, the loss had ignited a fire in them, a fire that could only be quenched by the Varlock's complete defeat. In the underground command center, the world's leaders convened to discuss their next move. Earth was no longer a passive player in the galaxy. No longer would they be content with diplomatic talks and peaceful resolutions. The Varlock had shown them that peace was a fragile illusion, and it was time to act decisively. "We cannot stop now," General Stone said, his voice firm. "We've dealt a blow to their fleet, but they will retaliate. They will bring everything they have to bear against us. We need to hit them harder. We need to destroy their ability to fight back." His words were met with silence. The leaders of Earth knew what it meant to go on the offensive. They knew the risks, but they also knew that the Varlock had to be crushed before they could rebuild and come for Earth again. "We'll take the fight to their homeworld," General Stone declared. "We'll break their leadership, cripple their infrastructure, and make sure they never threaten us again." The Council didn't hesitate. They knew the risks of an assault on the Varlock's homeworld, but they also understood that the only way to ensure Earth's survival was to take the fight to the enemy. The time for defense was over. Earth would be on the offensive from now on. As the plan was set in motion, a new fear began to settle over the galaxy. The Varlock had been ruthless, but humanity was something different. The galaxy had underestimated Earth's capacity for survival, and now the galaxy would see just how far humanity was willing to go. Earth was no longer a world of peaceful negotiations. Humanity had dropped the mask of civility, and they would stop at nothing to ensure their survival. The Horizon and other human warships prepared for the next phase of the battle. The humans knew the Varlock would retaliate, and they had to be ready for the worst. Earth's fleet was not as large as the Varlock's, but it was well-equipped, heavily armed, and full of soldiers who had seen war before. Their mission was clear: strike fast, strike hard, and leave no trace of the Varlock behind. The journey to the Varlock homeworld was long, and every minute was filled with tension. The ship's crew worked tirelessly, preparing for what was about to come. The Varlock had no idea what was coming for them, and that was exactly how humanity wanted it. As they approached the Varlock's homeworld, the tension in the air was palpable. General Stone stood on the bridge of the Horizon, staring out into the void of space. He knew that this mission would change everything. If they succeeded, Earth would be safe. If they failed, the Varlock would finish what they had started, and humanity would be wiped out. The first wave of ships entered the Varlock system. As they got closer to the planet, the Varlock fleet emerged from behind their moons, ready to defend their world. But the humans were prepared. Their weapons were more advanced, their tactics more refined. They had been planning for this moment for years, and now they would execute their strategy without hesitation. The first battle took place in the outer rings of the Varlock system. Earth's fleet moved with deadly precision, striking Varlock warships as they tried to regroup. The human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and their weapons were devastating. The Varlock ships were caught off guard by the speed and power of the human assault. Stone's orders were simple: take down their fleet, no matter the cost. The Varlock ships were powerful, but they had underestimated Earth's resolve. The battle was fierce, but the humans were relentless. One by one, the Varlock ships began to fall. Their warships exploded in flashes of light as the humans fired with deadly accuracy. The humans' counterattack was swift and overwhelming, and soon the Varlock realized that they were not dealing with the same peaceful species they had encountered before. General Stone's fleet continued to push forward, driving the Varlock fleet deeper into their own space. The humans knew that they had to strike at the heart of the Varlock's power if they were to end this war once and for all. And so, they continued their assault, cutting through the Varlock defenses with ease and heading for the planet itself. As the human ships made their final approach to the Varlock's capital, General Stone knew that they were about to enter the most dangerous part of the war. The Varlock had their homeworld to defend, and they would fight with everything they had. But Stone was confident. Humanity had come too far to back down now. The first battle was over, but the real war was just beginning. The message had been sent. Humanity was not weak. They had been pushed to the brink, but now they would show the galaxy that Earth was a force to be feared. The Varlock had made the mistake of underestimating humanity, and they would pay the price for it. Humanity had been awakened, and there was no turning back. The fate of the galaxy would soon be decided, and humanity had no intention of losing. The war was no longer a distant conflict. It had become a direct battle for Earth's survival. As the human fleet advanced deeper into Varlock territory, the stakes grew higher. With each passing moment, the vast void of space felt more like a battleground than a place of peace. Humanity had crossed a point of no return, and now they would either conquer or be destroyed. General Marcus Stone stood on the bridge of the horizon, his eyes fixed on the massive Varlock homeworld ahead. The enemy was desperate, regrouping in ways that humanity had not yet encountered. But Earth's forces were ready. Every soldier, every pilot, and every officer aboard the fleet knew what was at stake. The Varlock had struck first, and now humanity was determined to finish it. The Varlock, once thought to be invincible, were beginning to crack. They had underestimated humanity's resolve. Earth's people had learned quickly, adapting to the brutal ways of war. They had gained knowledge from the best and had honed their skills in secret. The technology of Earth's fleet was cutting edge, designed to exploit every weakness of the Varlock. It wasn't just about fighting back anymore. This was about delivering a blow that would cripple the enemy beyond recovery. The first waves of Earth's assault force hit the Varlock defenses hard. The Varlock's fleets tried to retaliate, but they were unprepared for the precision and speed with which the humans attacked. The human ships moved like ghosts, appearing from the darkness of space, firing their devastating weapons before disappearing again. The Varlock, despite their vast fleets, couldn't keep up with the relentless pace of Earth's assault. As the battle raged on, the Varlock began to realize something they had never considered. The humans weren't like any other species they had encountered. They were resourceful, determined, and unyielding. Every setback the humans faced only fueled their desire for victory. The Varlock were used to dominating their enemies, but now they were being hunted by the very species they had once thought weak. General Stone's orders were clear: drive the Varlock back, destroy their fleets, and cripple their war machine. The human fleet followed these orders with ruthless precision, targeting key Varlock strongholds in space, cutting off their lines of supply and communication. But as they pushed forward, the enemy's response grew more aggressive. The Varlock were not done yet. A new wave of Varlock warships, larger and more powerful than the previous ones, emerged from the depths of their homeworld's atmosphere. The humans hadn't expected this, but they were ready. The Varlock's desperation was palpable. They had unleashed their best weaponry, knowing that this final defense would determine the fate of their civilization. As the two forces collided in the void of space, it was clear that this battle would be unlike anything Earth had ever faced before. The Varlock were fighting not just for victory, but for survival. And humanity, for the first time in its history, was not just defending itself. It was on the offensive, striking hard, striking fast, and showing the galaxy that Earth was no longer a passive player in the cosmic order. On the bridge of the horizon, General Stone issued his orders once again. Take them down, no matter the cost. We are not backing down. His voice was steady, but his mind was sharp, calculating the best way to strike the Varlock's heart. The humans knew they had the advantage. The Varlock, despite their larger numbers, were struggling to keep up with the human war machines. The key to victory lay in the speed and flexibility of Earth's ships. They were smaller, quicker, and better equipped to exploit the gaps in the Varlock's defenses. As Earth's forces continued to press forward, the tide of the battle began to turn. Varlock ships were torn apart in fiery explosions, their once proud fleet falling to pieces in the cold, unforgiving emptiness of space. The human fleet moved with purpose, taking out key installations on the Varlock homeworld's surface, attacking their military command centers, and cutting off their ability to coordinate an effective defense. On the surface of the Varlock homeworld, chaos reigned. Cities that had once been the crown jewels of Varlock civilization were now under siege. Human soldiers, equipped with the most advanced weapons and armor, had landed on the planet's surface. They fought their way through the Varlock defenses, cutting down anything that stood in their way. The war was no longer just in the sky. Now, it was a brutal, ground-level battle for the planet itself. The Varlock soldiers fought back fiercely, but their morale was shattered. They had expected the humans to fold, to retreat under the pressure of such a fierce assault. But the humans didn't retreat. They kept fighting. Every human soldier knew the cost of failure, and they were willing to pay whatever price was necessary to ensure that the Varlock would never be able to threaten Earth again. Back in space, the Horizon led the charge, coordinating the attack and making sure the Varlock fleet couldn't regroup. As the battle raged on, Stone knew that the final strike was near. He could see the enemy's forces breaking apart, their leadership crumbling under the weight of Earth's relentless assault. The message was clear. Humanity had dropped the mask of civility. There was no longer any pretense of peace. No longer would they seek negotiation. Earth was now in control of its destiny, and the galaxy would have to reckon with that. The war was not over, but humanity had turned the tide. The Varlock were on the retreat, and General Stone's plan was coming to fruition. The victory at the Varlock homeworld would be the turning point, the moment when humanity made its mark in the galaxy. The Varlock would be crushed, and no one would ever again underestimate Earth's resolve. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the center of it. There was no going back now. The final stages of the battle for the Varlock homeworld were in full swing. General Marcus Stone stood at the helm of the Horizon, overseeing the destruction of the Varlock forces. His ship was one of the last human vessels left in the system, but it had become a symbol of humanity's strength, carrying with it the spirit of Earth's people. The Varlock were no longer the powerful invaders they once were. They were cornered, desperate, and fighting a losing battle. Stone could feel the weight of the decision to launch the final assault. The Varlock were on the edge of complete destruction, but the question remained: would humanity show mercy or wipe them out entirely? The answer came swiftly. The Varlock had already proven that they had no mercy for humanity when they had destroyed Earth's cities and slaughtered countless innocents. Now it was time for Earth to return the favor. The human fleet had split into smaller groups, targeting strategic points on the Varlock homeworld. Cities, military installations, and resource factories had all been reduced to rubble. The Varlock could not regroup. Their infrastructure was shattered, their leadership decimated. What had once been a mighty empire was now a broken shell of its former self, and humanity had done it all with precision, with cold, calculated strikes that left no room for mercy. The ground forces were engaged in brutal urban combat. Human soldiers, some of the best trained in the galaxy, fought with relentless determination. The Varlock forces had dug in, holding out in the remnants of their once proud cities, but they were no match for the humans who stormed through their defenses. The terrain was harsh, and the conditions were brutal, but the humans pressed on, never pausing, never giving up. On the surface of the Varlock homeworld, General Stone watched the live feeds from the ground. The footage was difficult to watch at times. Brutal battles in the streets, buildings reduced to rubble, the screams of soldiers on both sides echoing through the chaos. But Stone felt no pity for the Varlock. The war had cost humanity too much already. Innocent lives had been lost, and no mercy would be shown to those who had started this conflict. The final push came when the Varlock's last stronghold fell. Their capital city, once a shining jewel in the galaxy, was now a smoking ruin. The Varlock had been forced to fight to the last, but the humans had anticipated every move, countered every defense. Earth had learned from the best, adapted, and now the Varlock were paying the price for underestimating humanity's capacity for survival. As the human forces pressed forward, the Varlock knew they were doomed. Their leaders had been taken, their warriors had fallen, and their homeworld was in ruins. The Varlock's pride had been shattered. They had not expected a species like humanity to rise against them, to fight with such ferocity, to fight not just for survival, but for revenge. And now, they were facing the consequences. In space, the human fleet was finishing its task. The Varlock's remaining warships were scattered, their forces broken beyond repair. The Horizon and the rest of Earth's fleet had crushed the remnants of the Varlock's military, and there was no more fight left in the enemy. The war, at least for now, was over. General Stone looked out over the battlefield, The Varlock homeworld now a desolate wasteland. The silence was deafening. The cost of the war had been immense, but humanity had won. Earth's people had endured, had fought through the darkest days, and had come out victorious. But Stone knew that the victory was not just about the Varlock. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humanity had been underestimated for far too long. They had been seen as weak, insignificant, a species to be discarded, their planet a prize to be conquered. But now, humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. Earth was no longer a world of quiet diplomacy and peaceful negotiation. Earth was a force to be reckoned with, a civilization willing to fight for its survival and to protect its own. As Stone stood on the bridge of the horizon, his mind turned to the future. The war with the Varlock was over, but humanity's place in the galaxy had only just begun. The victory against the Varlock would echo through the stars, a warning to any who would dare to challenge Earth again. But there was still much to be done. Humanity had taken its first step into a wider universe, and they had made it clear that they would never be afraid to defend their home. The war had changed everything. The galaxy would never forget what humanity had done. The Varlock might be defeated, but the universe was full of other threats, other challenges. Humanity's fight for survival was far from over. Yet, with the strength shown in this battle, General Stone believed that Earth was ready for whatever came next. Humanity had dropped the mask of civility, and there would be no turning back. The Varlock Empire had been shattered, but the echo of their defeat would reverberate across the galaxy for years to come. Humanity had made its mark, showing the universe that they would no longer be a passive species, hiding behind the shadows of lesser civilizations. The battle for the Varlock homeworld was not just a victory in military terms. It was a declaration that Earth was no longer a target to be conquered, but a force that would not hesitate to strike back when threatened. General Marcus Stone stood in the war room of the horizon, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on his shoulders. The Varlock homeworld was still a war-torn landscape, burning in the aftermath of the devastating assault, but he knew the real work was just beginning. The universe had taken notice of humanity's power. And now, there were new questions to answer. How would the galaxy react to Earth's rise? And what would come next? The first transmissions came in shortly after the battle's conclusion. Other species, some who had been silent throughout the war, now began to speak. They expressed their surprise, their admiration, and most importantly, their fear. Humanity had surprised the Varlock. They had shocked the entire galaxy. And now, Earth was not just a planet among many. It was a world of power, a world that would be watched closely by every civilization in the galaxy. Stone leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the incoming messages. Some of the transmissions were from allies, species who had been in contact with Earth for years, but who had never truly respected them. Others were from those who had once considered humanity beneath notice, beings who now saw Earth as a threat. Their tone was different now. Instead of dismissive words, there were urgent warnings. But Stone didn't flinch. Humanity had already proven what it could do. Behind him, officers and diplomats worked tirelessly, receiving word from Earth's leaders, trying to make sense of what had happened. The war was over, but humanity's place in the galaxy was still uncertain. Would they become a power, a force for peace, or would they be seen as conquerors, just like the Varlock? The questions were many, and the answers were few. Stone's thoughts were interrupted by the voice of his second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Ava Hart. She stood behind him, her eyes filled with determination. "Sir, we've received a message from the Galactic Council. They're requesting a meeting." The Galactic Council was an organization that consisted of many species from across the galaxy, species who had banded together to maintain order and peace in the universe. Earth had never been part of this council, as they had always been considered too small and unimportant. But now, after their victory over the Varlock, they were being called to the table. This was a critical moment in humanity's history. "Put them through," Stone said, his voice steady, despite the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. A holographic image flickered to life before him, showing the members of the Galactic Council. There were species of all shapes and sizes, each with their own unique features. But despite their differences, one thing was clear: they all shared a common purpose: to control the galaxy and prevent any one species from rising too quickly. The Council's members had always feared what could happen if a species like Earth gained too much power. The Speaker of the Council, a tall, imposing figure from a species known as the Korath, began to speak. "General Stone, humanity's victory over the Varlock has not gone unnoticed. You have destroyed one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, and for that, we must acknowledge your strength. But you must understand, the galaxy is not ready for a power like yours. Your people have shown themselves to be dangerous." Stone met the gaze of the speaker, his voice calm but firm. "We didn't start this war. The Varlock did. We only fought to protect ourselves. And if any other species dares to threaten Earth, we will fight again." The Council members exchanged uneasy glances. They had never expected such a response. Earth had not only survived, but had fought back with a strength that no one could have predicted. "General Stone," the Korath speaker continued, "your actions have destabilized the balance of power in the galaxy. You must understand that we, the Council, have a responsibility to ensure that no single species can dominate others. We demand that you cease your military campaigns and join the Council. You must agree to abide by the laws of intergalactic peace." Stone stood tall, his posture unyielding. "We will not bow to anyone. Humanity will decide its own fate, and we will not be dictated to by a council that did nothing while Earth was being destroyed." A silence hung over the room. Stone's words had struck a nerve. The Council had expected Earth to fall in line, to accept their place as a secondary power in the galaxy. But humanity was different. They had proven their strength, and now they would not be cowed by political threats. Finally, the Korath speaker spoke again, his tone less certain. "You are treading a dangerous path, General. The galaxy will not accept a rogue world. We give you this final warning. Join the Council, or face the consequences." Stone didn't hesitate. "We will face whatever comes. Humanity does not fear threats anymore. If the galaxy wants peace, then let it be peace. But if it wants war, then we will fight." The Council members looked to one another, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. They had never faced a species like humanity before, one that had the power to fight back and the courage to stand alone. They could not predict how Earth would respond in the future, but one thing was clear: humanity would no longer be treated as a pawn. The transmission ended, and Stone turned to face his officers. His voice was firm, resolute. "Humanity will not be silenced. We are not just a planet anymore. We are a force, and the galaxy will learn to respect us. We'll make our own path from here." The battle for Earth was over, but the war for humanity's place in the stars had only just begun. The galaxy had underestimated Earth before, but that was no longer the case. General Stone and the human race knew one thing for certain: they were not just survivors, they were fighters. And no matter the challenge, humanity would stand tall, ready to face whatever came next. Humanity had dropped the mask of civility, and now they were ready to claim their place among the stars.